been almost a year since the now former Letcher County Sheriff did this. Emptied his service weapon into a sitting judge who was literally sitting in his chambers. And though this act, as you can see for yourself, is forever preserved on video, the defense wants the murder charge thrown out. They say grand jury testimony from a state police detective is not exactly the same as what he said to someone else, specifically at a separate court hearing. But the sheriff/shooter/defendant there also wants the world to see his medical records, specifically his mental health records, that his lawyers say that grand jury never saw, even though they asked, they wanted to, weren't allowed to. I want to bring in NewsNation producer Allison Weiner, who has immersed herself in this story for months. Okay, I mean, it is really starting, Allison, to sound like this defendant, the sheriff/shooter, is trying to mount an insanity defense and say, everybody needs to see how crazy I am, so open my files. Did the grand jury truly ask for these, and were they denied?
Yes, they did ask for them, and it wasn't that they were denied. It was that only a small amount of information was given to them as they were asking these questions. And it's kind of interesting because it lets you see that the grand jurors have been probably hearing reports about this case, and that they kind of had some sort of understanding that there was, issues here with, was the sheriff okay afterwards? How was he acting afterwards? I'm sure they probably saw that video because there was a flurry of questions. And what actually happened here is that the prosecutor and the key detective, who also testified at the preliminary hearing, that detective held back some information, probably at the direction of the prosecutor. This all sits with the prosecutor. And while we all know that grand juries tend to indict people, and that probably would have happened here, there was information that was withheld. What the detective ended up saying was not exactly the whole story.
Yeah, but I'm with you. You know, the ham sandwich thing. This grand jury saw that video. They're going to indict. I don't think they would have cared one iota if they'd missed out some information. But you're right. The process is the process. Big issue I want you to sort out for me.
But here's the problem.
Before,
Sure.
Real quickly, this is big because Sheriff Stines picked up the judge's phone and then called his own daughter, Sheriff Stines' own daughter, from a contact in the judge's phone. So all of us have been going bananas, saying, why does this judge have the teenage daughter's number
in the judge's phone?
Ah, okay. Straighten that out for me. What is the story there?
It wasn't in the phone. Let me just explain it. It wasn't a contact in the phone. What ended up happening is that the sheriff was trying to reach his daughter. She wasn't answering his calls. So ultimately, he took the judge's phone, and she probably answered that number because she didn't know what it was. But she wasn't answering the sheriff's calls. He was acting erratically, as we found out from some of the medical records that were in the motion. But really what happened here is the grand jurors actually asked, because they knew that there was they wanted to know for sure, was there a real investigation done into the judge's phone? And what the detective ended up telling them is there was an investigation into the judge's phone. They checked apps. They investigated all of the different phones to make sure that there was no communication of any kind, and that's what they found. And then the jurors asked a follow-up, and they said it again. What if it had been deleted? And they're like, we checked that as well. There is no evidence to show that there was any communication between the judge and the sheriff's daughter or the sheriff's wife. And that is something that we hinted at and we reported earlier, but now we have the grand jury testimony and the testimony of the detective to, supplement that reporting.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.